Hi, I'm Andy with Grandview Road Studio, where I share my vintage rescue projects and all things DIY. Today we're going to rescue this old hay trolley. This will be the first in a video series where we restore an old hay trolley and transform it into a beautiful, one-of-a-kind chandelier. So be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on them follow-up videos. So I start out by just laying out the trolley and the jars for the future light fixture to see how the layout's going to look, just to get a rough idea on size, shape, dimensions. Cutting down the beam that the trolley will eventually hang on. Little WD-40 loosens up the hardware for me a little bit. Disassembly on these Eagle trolleys is fairly basic, just a few nuts and bolts. The real challenge being that it's square hardware. So I use the one-size-fits-all tool or socket to get the square hardware just because none of my other sockets will fit that. Just a wire wheel chucked into my drill to knock off the surface rust. I'm not going too crazy on it. Not using the angle grinder with a heavy coarse wire wheel. Of course I have a couple of different sizes and shapes just to kind of get in all the nooks and crannies. But again, I'm just trying to look to take the surface rust off, get all that old bird poop off of there. Because the finishing process, a little bit of rust on there actually gives it a nice look. We don't want this thing to look like it's brand new. It was manufactured in 1883. We want it to still kind of look like that. Have a little bit of that rustic charm left over. Yeah, getting inside the wheels, sometimes the wheels really get cruising. Here's a quick side-by-side of the one that has just the rough cleaning with the wire wheel versus the other side that hasn't been touched yet. Definitely got to get all that bird poop off. Yeah, 150 years of Door County, Wisconsin bird poop. So we'll get all this cleaned off again. Just doing the other side. I got this kit of wire brushes from the local hardware store, but I've also bought a couple of other replacement pieces on Amazon. All the tools and special hardware that I use I'll leave in the description below. For doing the smaller pieces, I moved my benchtop drill press to my workbench here. You can see some of the shots of the dust getting thrown back. That's because I have a squirrel cage fan from an old furnace mounted above this with like a dual filter system. Really does a good job of keeping the shop clean, sucks everything up, moves a lot of volume of air, and gets all this old nasty rust and bird poop and dust and grime sucked up the back wall there. The wheel on this trolley is actually a piece of hardwood, not metal, so I chuck in the nylon brush to knock off some of the crust and grime without damaging the wood itself. Just a quick cleanup. It kind of comes to a polish actually with this nylon or plastic wire wheel. And then just doing a little bit of cleanup here on some of the tinier nooks and crannies. Now onto the beam. Start by cleaning up the metal bits with the wire wheel and then chuck up some more of the nylon wheel. Clean up the surface stuff. It doesn't have to be anything perfect. Just want to get all this stuff ready for metal finish. Now we start heating up the piece with the torch, and you can see as it warms up, it draws out the condensation. You can kind of see it come to the surface, and then I keep cooking it just a little bit longer till that burns off, and that gets me to a really good temperature. What this does is allows the Crisco to rub it on the hot piece of iron, and it kind of fits into all the little grooves and nooks and fills the pores of this old cast iron. Rub it in just kind of with a saturated shop rag to get the kind of the first coat rubbed into it. Another thing that Crisco does is it prevents future rust from forming. A friend of mine suggested this for finishing anything cast iron, and I really haven't looked back. Once it's hot, the saturated rag really takes a super light coat on this. You don't want anything like standing or dripping. Just kind of rub it in, and the hot iron will actually melt the Crisco and it'll seep into the pores of that cast. I have an old chip brush, just a 99-cent paintbrush that I just dab it in and mush this into all the little grooves and edges that I couldn't push it in with the rag. And now, just like finishing any cast iron skillet or any other piece of cast iron, I'm going to cook this off. Just grab the old hand torch, and nothing crazy. I'm not getting it cherry red, just enough to cook the Crisco into the pores. And you can see it just disappearing as I run across some of these bigger flat spots. But this is happening all over the entire piece. Anywhere that it looks like it's a little bit more saturated, I'll wipe it down with a shop rag. and hit it again with the torch until I have a nice finish that I'm happy with. Here I'm repeating that process. You can really see that front face. Here you can really see the Crisco cooking off the front of this trolley, leaving a fantastic rustic finish. Gosh, I really like the way these turn out. So I let that hang for just a second so it could cool, and then threw it down on the workbench just to wipe off any other spots that still might be oversaturated or look a little wet. Here's a side-by-side. The bottom piece, of course, the one that we just cooked in Crisco, and the top one has only received the wire wheel treatment. Gosh, that looks great. Like I said, I started using this on cast iron pieces and I just haven't looked back. There's a couple of ways that we can look at finishing some other pieces in the future, but I really love this Crisco and blowtorch method. I'm gonna repeat the process on all the smaller parts. Same situation, chip brush, rubbing it in all the little edges, blowtorch, cooking it all off, leaving that great rustic patina. Rinse and repeat on the rest of the pieces. And here we are, ready to reassemble. Lucky for us, these Eagle hay trolleys, minimal hardware, minimal pieces, not too much to remember. Easy enough for the world's greatest chicken daddy to reassemble. Dad here making the best of nap time. All right, so this buttoned up pretty nice. Now we're gonna get to the beam. I like to use this product Brie Wax. It comes in a variety of different colors and doesn't require a lot of finished work or prep to the wood. I just rub it on with a clean shop rag and then massage it in with a hand brush. Just a little scrubby brush to make sure I get in all the cracks and pores and little bug holes that were in this 150-year-old ash. And then I have not my old toothbrush, but I got Mama's old toothbrush here to rub in all the small holes. Just dip it in the wax. And this stuff sits for about 5 or 10 minutes before you can polish it. I use the same nylon wheel chucked into my drill to go over the entire thing, and you can really see it start to shine. Great product. I'm sure this is not its intended use, but I haven't found anything that give me that finish that I'm looking for. Another great advantage to using the Brie Wax is if there's small burrs or barbs in the wood or areas where it's like splintering, it softens the wood up a bit. The trolley's rolling on really nicely to this. Couldn't be more thrilled how this one turned out. Super clean. Really great finish. Again, this is that just cooked on Crisco, just a single coat over a single coat of Brie Wax over the barn timber. And I'm just using an acrylic paint pen here. This one's gold. I did my last eagle with gold lettering and I'm really thrilled the way it turned out. So I'm gonna do this one too. The last one of these I lined the eagle also, and I'm not sure that I was in love with the way that the eagle turned out. So I think I'm gonna skip over it on this piece. Here's a picture of the last one I did. Let me know if you like the eagle traced out in the gold paint as well. So this does do a great job covering the letters. Using a paint pen, you really don't have to have the greatest, steadiest artist hand. These raised embossed letters trace very easily. I was quite intimidated the first time I did one, but it really is not hard at all. I'm nowhere near an artist, and I don't have any problem, coloring outside of the lines and, wrecking that finish. I bought these paint pens, I think, in like a 4-pack. They came with a couple of silvers, a couple of golds. I have some other colors that I've used in the past. I just really like the gold on these with that Crisco finish. I feel like it fits the era and the theme, even though I'm sure this wasn't the original color scheme. One coat, these look pretty decent. I usually will let it dry for about an hour or so. I'm not sure if it really even takes that long, but then I hit the entire thing again, just a quick second coat of this acrylic paint pen over the top, and you can see these letters really pop. Patented on one side, November 20th, 1883 on the other. If you like this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. As you can see, there's been a little bit more work done on this piece. If you'd like to see how we ran the wire through the rope and turned old mason jars into light diffusers, click that follow button and stay tuned. Thank you.